Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And wherever you are, we thank you for being here with us today on Red Worldwide's live co-working session here, right here on the internet. We are on YouTube. Yes, we're in Zoom, but we're on YouTube and we have a live studio audience inside of Zoom. And so we're very excited about that today because we utilize the people who are there to inform our processes and to find out what they want to know more about. And especially when we're live, we actually ask questions before we start and people give us information. And sometimes it kind of steers us in a certain direction. Sometimes we have very, very curated sessions that have been prepared ahead of times. And then other times the questions kind of guide our sessions into what they need to be based on what you all are needing. So if you would like to be one of those people, you can always go to our website, redworldwide.org, and click there on the live co-working sessions link and come right into the Zoom room with us. If you're online right now when we are, which this is PST and it's Tuesday at 5 p.m. You can join us right now. But if you want to watch later, of course, we have no problem with that. And if you have questions, you can always weigh in on our community at our website or leave information here in the comments section. We go back and we check and try to answer any questions that might be there from people who are watching. Well, with that said, today we're going to dive into an area that has to do with legacy. We're always concerned about making sure we preserve our legacy, that we are building legacy so that we have the ability to sow into our future, sow into our children's future, sow into the futures of people who we might be mentoring and lifting up in any kind of way. And so with that said, we're looking at today talking about value. And we have, kind of dived into this a little bit, just inched our way in a little bit before, where we've talked a little bit more about value and that even money itself is an expression of value. And today we're going to kind of break down the other expressions of value because we talked a little bit about the fact that in order for you to be able to speak the language of money more fluently, you have to understand the other expressions of value that you can convert it to. And so I shared this in some of our previous sessions, and anyone that's watched the Maximizing Capacity session or the Driving Business Value sessions, any of those sessions, you've heard me talk about the fact that money is an expression of value and that you can, in its capacity in the form of cash, it is not really capable of expanding itself. It has to be converted to some other form in order for it to actually expand its capacity, in a way that really gives us the value that we can utilize, to do amazing things, in our family. And so we're going to just kind of share a little bit about that today, because I think it's important for you to understand the path to preserving your legacy, what that path is, how you can get on that path, and how you can stay on the path, and what it is that you can do, on the path. So I've shared this particular analogy before when we were sharing about insurance and talking about wealth in the way of maximizing it and how you could do that. That when you go in the grocery store, you take $500, you can only buy $500 worth of groceries. If you go to the retail store or retail outlet and you go to buy a pair of tennis, and the tennis costs $250, if you're paying for those tennis in cash, $250 gets you $250 worth of sneakers. Okay. Unless you have a coupon or something like that. But for the most part, the value of the cash actually pays for the value of the object when you are consuming an object that has a low growth potential. But we talked about the fact that when you kind of convert the cash to these other expressions of value, when you translate them from cash money into something else, that you can actually take it and expand its capacity, or even the potential of it grows based on what you have converted it or translated it from cash into. Okay. And so when I'm saying that, and no, it sounds a little disjointed right now, but in a minute, it'll make a lot of sense. And so let's take a look at what some of these other expressions of value are. So we know that, if you're converting cash, right, to some of these other expressions of value, you can unlock the potential of the cash. And so let's talk about what that could look like for you. You could take $500. And with that $500, you could actually, purchase a piece of artwork that might be, worth $500 today, or you might be able to get it for $500 today, but it may appreciate over time and, really cause you to be able to take advantage of that potential growth that we talked about a little bit ago. And so I'm going to just break down each one of these expressions of value for you so that you can understand what it will look like if you could convert or translate your cash from the expression of value that it is into another language, another expression of value, and see how that could very well work. And so as we take a look at the investment side of things, investments are expressions of value that are purchased with the intention of generating income or appreciating in value over time. So let's look at, maybe an expression of value like stock. You purchase the stock for a certain amount, and I'll just talk about, maybe a privately held company right now. You could purchase stock in a privately held company, something that's not currently on the stock market, and maybe you're buying that stock today at maybe you buy $100 worth, okay? But that stock could appreciate over time based on what is going on in the markets and what's going on in that company. We have seen it happen where companies just blew up overnight and people had no idea that this one little thing that they thought was going to be a really little thing could drive the stock value, so highly. I have one of our key members of Red, and also she runs her own company, but she is a purchaser of stock, okay, who's on the line with us right now. And she could tell you that some of the things that she purchased at the time that she bought them, she didn't have to pay very much money, for them in comparison to what the value of the stock is today, and so when we're looking at it from that standpoint, we're looking for investments that have a higher growth potential, that when you take maybe your $500 and you put it into these particular expressions of value, they appreciate at a rate, and the amount of appreciation unlocks the potential, the wealth potential of your dollars. Okay, so this is what we're looking for when we're talking about legacy and building legacy and the path that we're on. We're looking for the ability for us to convert or translate our cash into something that unlocks its potential, at a reasonable amount of time, and at a much higher value proposition. So let's look at another one. Digital currency. Many people are, really heavily off into crypto these days. And I hear my husband, talking about this quite frequently lately about how much Bitcoin has grown, okay, and its value now, and Ethereum and some of these other coins that we've been looking at over time, we're now seeing them in a different light because they have unlocked the wealth potential of the dollars that have been utilized to purchase them. And when you convert them back from that digital currency into cash, we are seeing it, but most people are not doing that. Most people are holding there, but we are seeing people who are cashing out and they have unlocked the potential of their dollars and they've seen a significant amount of growth. Let's look at another one, real estate. One of my favorites, because I personally have participated in real estate investments over the years, and taking $500 and putting it into a piece of land. And I actually did that. I wrote a $500 check for a piece of property years and years ago. And let me tell you, okay, it was a great deal because I was able to get the house, and it was on three quarters. I'm sorry, it was on a not three quarters. It was on a corner lot but it was in a position where, the house itself was a smaller home, but it sat on 3/4 of an acre. And interestingly enough, having access to that particular type of property, for such a low investment, and being able to unlock the equity in that property, of course, gave the cash potential or the capacity of my dollars, the growth that I was looking for. A lot of people, have they do have the constitution to do real estate investing. And I would say that, really is your risk tolerance and how you, see things that will help you to have the positioning to for real estate investments, because sometimes, people, the way they see things, it'll cause them to buy and sell way too quickly. And they don't really get the equity spike that they should get when they are holding on to a piece of property. They just see, this cycle, and the cycle happening the way it does. Sometimes they don't want to ride it out. Okay. So, they dump the property way too soon. But I am saying that this is a piece of land or property that is a part of that expression of value, and it will appreciate over time. And if you get to really know the market and watch the market, you will learn how to know when it is a good time to sell and when it's a good time to hold. Some properties, you just should hold, period, because they do well in a portfolio with other properties, and they will make you more money over time, depending on the type of property it is. I've heard some of my very wealthy friends who are really into real estate investing from a commercial side talk about investing more in storage units and or the mixed use properties where you have commercial activities going on the bottom floor, and upstairs you may have, a few different flats up there. You might have a couple of or 2 or 3, maybe even 4 units, that you can rent out to they're single family residences upstairs, but downstairs, you might have dry cleaners and some other type of, shop, a barber shop or beauty shop, or you might have a post office, okay, that might be there, postal mailbox locations, some other retail stores. Those might be what you have on the bottom floor. And so these mixed use properties, they really do appreciate, and you can be making the money from your rentals, right? Okay, so your little cash that you spent as a down payment to get into this commercial property could give you the ability to have, just a really good income stream that's coming in. And the fact of the matter is that your property is appreciating over time. So now you've got the income stream, you've unlocked the potential of the cash that you used to buy the property from just the appreciation over time. So, real estate is a very good opportunity. There are all types of real estate opportunities that I've seen people get into. I'm now seeing people who were formerly in Airbnb, switch their properties up and go into corporate rentals. I'm seeing people who, were formerly just renting out, properties and just doing, one-to-one rentals. Now they're turning it into units that they rent to students. Okay. And they're renting out every room. There's so many different things that are happening in that area. And so it's just something for you to think about. Okay. This is an expression of value, and it will appreciate over time. And even if there's seasonality there, you still can make some decisions with your property that positions you quite well in the market when you are studious and you learn, how the market works and how it course corrects. Then there's jewels, art, and antiquities. I started off talking about, purchasing artwork. One of the things that I have really started to learn a little bit more about is purchasing NFTs, and these pieces of art, whether it's digital art or, physical art, paintings, pen and ink drawings. Art is art. People that make jewelry, like some of the jewelry that I have on right now, they make all different types of beautiful pieces. I saw a young lady who crochets, and she crochets wedding dresses and very beautiful, elegant, attire. And her attire is worth so much money. And I can imagine what it's going to be worth, in the future, because these are going to be items that are originals. Okay. And so a few years from now, those originals are going to have some value, added over time. So when we're thinking about some of the things that we have, and that we are collecting, or things that we might be using our cash to purchase, it's this medium of exchange to actually convert or translate from cash to this other value. I want you to be thinking about the potential of growth in that investment, what it could possibly turn out to be over time. Okay, let's look another thing. Look, another one of these things is privately held companies. We talked about it from the side of the stock. Now let's just talk about the side of, looking at the fact that a company itself could be started today, and based on what it is that you have done with this company, it could be worth enough to become what they call a unicorn in the future, meaning it is $1 billion company, and instantly, it can be on the stock market, okay, because of the fact that, something about the company was done in some kind of way that caused it to express a level of value and grow in a manner that it, became a force to be reckoned with. So what are we saying? Well, we're looking at different types of companies that grew over just seemingly overnight. Some of those that I think about, are these companies that, come up with ideas that are, things that, I wouldn't have thought of it, but it made sense. And it just became the new next best thing. Those little collectible items that, one of my granddaughters just loves these things. And they're little bitty, they call them minis, they're these little, I don't know, we used to call them, help me, Jerron. I know you're here on the line with me. What figurines? Okay, we used to call it figurines. I couldn't think about it, but couldn't think what it was called at first. But they make them now in a different with these 3D printers, and they have all different types of things that they make in these miniature ways, and people collect them. And some of them are worth a lot of money, and others of them, they're growing in their value. Some are just trinkets, but the bottom line is that who would have thought some of the companies that created these things are now, worth billions of dollars because of the fact that they found a niche in an industry that was seemingly becoming almost obsolete, and they flipped it on its head by playing to the children, okay, and not the adults, okay. Yes, I collect things, and I'm sitting here looking at some of my collectibles right now. I'm going to pick up one, and I'll share my camera again just so you guys can see it. But I have some little collectibles and things that I have collected over the years, and I tell you, these are just my ideas of things that I tend to like. But some of them are art pieces, and they do have a little value. Over time, they have, started to appreciate. And so you kind of want to put those things away, because you know that at some point in time, someone is going to get access to them and may decide that they want to trade or sell or something like that. But again, the companies that create these things, those companies have value. And so when we're looking at, our companies, we need to be looking at the companies that we have even as an asset rather than a liability. Sometimes we think about our companies from the standpoint of what it costs for us to run it, as opposed to thinking about the valuation that we could get on the company. And if we ever decide to sell it, the multiple that we could get in the sale. And so this is a totally different session. We're not going to do this session today, but on a different session, we're going to talk about what makes a valuation, and how do we find out what a company is really worth. how do companies, sell for 10 times the value or, 12 times the value? What kind of company can do that? And what kind of company can sell for 5 times the value? Or what makes a company devalued? And so it's important for you as company owners and people who run companies to understand value from that standpoint. But when you're looking at a privately held company, you have to understand that it is an expression of value that has not been traded, or it's not on a public exchange. And there are some private companies that do have quite the value, and people do, take the time to invest their money or buy into them for specific reasons. Okay, so let's look at another expression: intellectual property. Okay, and so this is one of my really, key I would say key components to our asset value in our home. We're looking at intellectual property everywhere we turn, from the books that we write to the songs, to the lyrics, the poems, the ideas that have not yet been put to market. All of those things, those intellectual pieces of property have value, and they're expressions of value that they can even, have iterations on top of the iterations based on what it is that we, have created. And, so inventions and products that are still not yet at market can still have a value. Okay. And I want you to understand that there is a way to even value what it is that you have and what it could become before you actually put it out on the market. There's a way that we do that. And so I want to, just say to you that this expression of value is one that is key, because every single day somebody's bringing something to market. While there are many people that are getting things patented, only about, I would say 23% or 24%, I think that's the last number that I saw, of those items that have been patented actually make it to market. But then there are the times when you have people who never even get a patent. They put their idea out there, and overnight, the idea becomes a sensation. And so I want you to be thinking about the fact that ideas, have a value, and putting a few dollars into your idea could very well help you to have this expression of value that, could be the next Instagram, or the next, for that matter, the next Twitter, which is now X, I think. And we have so many other, types of things that people have created that, they looked up, and man, in 10 years, this is the way we do things, not just the thing, but it's the way we do things. And so you want to be thinking about your ideas as an expression of value. Revocable trust. We have talked about trust, and we've taught just last week, we had a wonderful class that we taught about the difference between the revocable and the irrevocable trust, and why you need, a living trust, why you might need a family trust, what these trusts can do in your life and the life of your family, how it can help you to protect your legacy, how it can help you to ensure that funds get to your heirs, and not have to go through probate, how you can ensure that you have the capacity to take care of family members within the family trust. And so we talked about this, and we said that, when you're looking at the revocable and the irrevocable, this is really a matter of, yes, it's a matter of it being an expression of value, but it's also a matter of it being protective processes that help you and your family to better control, to manage, and to distribute your family's wealth. And so we really wanted to, add these because we think that they're really important for you to see. We had this last one, life insurance contracts and annuities, and we really want to make sure that we, don't overlook the fact that you could take a few dollars, $50, $100, $500, and you could unlock the value potential of your cash by purchasing a life insurance contract of some sort, whether it's a permanent policy or an annuity, or some type of way of protecting your family. These are expressions of values and contracts between you and this insurance company that can pay you out benefits tax free, but it also can pay or to your heirs, okay, the cash value of the policies. And also you can utilize the policies by borrowing against them when needed, to make sure that, certain things are taken care of in your lifetime. And so we want to be very, very clear about the fact that these expressions of value are all ways that we have these paths that we have to preserving our legacy. And if you're looking at it from the standpoint of what could I do if I had money, how could I take the cash that I have and get the better bang for my buck, then I'd be looking at some of the paths that we talked about today and seeing how you could traverse those paths, how you can go, along those paths to make sure that you are translating your cash to some other form that will give you more access, better protection, that could position you to be all that you could be, okay, differently than what you could do if you were just using the cash alone. I wanted to just really make sure that I shared that because I think that it's really important. And the other thing I want to say is this. I had a conversation with one of our members, just yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that some of her children, they spend at a level that is just far too uncomfortable for her, and she was wanting them to get more grounded in the process of not just saving money but putting money into something that will unlock its potential. And so it's kind of the same conversation that we're having right now, but she's doing it from the standpoint of a parent looking at those tennis shoes that you just paid $200 for, could have, if you use the cash for something that actually had a better, growth potential, okay, than the tennis shoes. Although the tennis shoes might still have a worth and, a value at some point, you might be able to sell it to someone down the road and you might get a little cash out of it, but it's not the potential that you could have by taking that same cash and putting it into something else that could yield you 2 times, 3 times, 5 times what it is that you use to purchase that item. And so when we're looking at it from this point, we got to be teaching our kids about value because they understand, money, they understand cash, and that the fact that they can take that cash and go and purchase the items that they like, but they don't understand delayed gratification and what it could mean for them, to be able to position themselves in such a way that they purchase something that holds and grows the value, okay? And in a manner that at some point in the future, they can use a portion of what they've invested or what they've paid for this item and continue to grow the value while they're enjoying the fruit, from their interest or from, maybe a loan off the policy or, from a little of the equity in the house, some of these other things. I can tell you just, and I've thought about this, as I'm getting older, some of these things come to my mind, how putting enough money into a piece of property that unlocked the equity that allowed me to pull equity out and buy another whole piece of property cash, based on the concept of looking at, this saying, okay, I know I'm going to take this money and it's going to be a payment, that I'm making every month for a while. And it may be tight at first, for me to do this. But over time, as my income grows and as I am continuing to, utilize this property, at some point, I can go and use some of that equity to buy another property that I might rent out. Okay. And, or I might sell this property because of the equity now that I have. I might get 3 times as much as I've put into the property. property. And so thinking about it from that standpoint, I know I'm using real estate, but there are other items, like I talked about the, insurance policies, and I've talked about hard assets in the past, talked about gold and silver, and I've talked about, rubies and, copper. I mean, there are other types of assets that we can invest in or purchase that will give us the ability to unlock the capacity of our money. And so I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, what is it that you can do? What do you have in your possession right now that you can flip? Okay. Flip the money, okay? Flip the cash, not necessarily the house. Flip, the equity in the property is there to use. Sometimes the equity in some of the things that we purchase, some of our hard assets, we can use that equity. We can hypothecate assets. We can collateralize it. These are words that I talk about in my finance, fluency and finance book, and so you want to be able to make it so that you have a knowledge that will allow you, and the wherewithal, okay? Not just the knowledge, but the ability to use that knowledge, to wield the knowledge, and the risk tolerance to be able to practice some of these things, that we're talking about. You don't want to practice with your rent money, though. You don't want to practice with the mortgage money. We want to practice with our non-risk capital, okay? And we want to do it under the guise of some professional assistance, if you can, or to maybe even group together in a mastermind. There are lots of wealth masterminds out there, and, investment clubs. There's, great professionals. We have some wonderful professionals that we are linked to. And so if you're really interested, we can pass off some names and, get you started with some people in your life that can help to, steer you in the right direction when it comes to this area. We are not financial advisors, so we don't play in that realm, but we do is we have lots of referrals, okay? And we can refer you to people who, that is their area of expertise, and they can assist you in the areas of insurance and investments and all of these wonderful things. Real estate, I used to be in that arena at one point in time, no longer in there. But I do have great friends who still are in that arena and who can steer you in the right direction. Well, this has been Patience Rose with Red Worldwide's Co-working Live, and we are so excited that you've been with us today for this another educational session. Again, this is not investment advice. This is only educational information, and we want to put you with professionals, who actually can make some of these things happen. We don't want you to go out there, and be reckless and not knowing really what to do. You just are jumping around out there doing some things. But we do want you to know that these things are possible. And with the right assistance, you could make, a tremendous amount of headway in, creating, for your family, the wealth profile that you all would love to have, and would love to make sure is available to your, generations coming after you. Thank you again for joining, and we'll see you again next time.